Hello everyone, and welcome to the Science Bloggers podcast. Last week, I attended the NASW Science Writers Conference and met up with fellow science podcaster and one of the panelists for the conference's live interviewing session, Stephany Lowe. Stephany is host of the Dope Science Show, and her goal is to make complex science accessible, relatable, and part of the everyday conversation. Yes, so hello Stephany, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. So for everyone that's listening, we are at the NASW Science Writers Conference in Washington, D.C. And Stephany said this is her first time here. So how are you enjoying it?
I'm really enjoying it. The city is so beautiful. I keep looking around like, wow, because of all the old buildings and the architecture. It's just so wonderful. I just want to walk around. And then for the conference, everyone's been so nice and informative and just really, you can definitely feel there's a community.
So have you done a lot of sightseeing?
I haven't done much sightseeing yet, just from the conference back and forth to my Airbnb, but I'm staying in Georgetown. So even the drive from my Airbnb here is just like very picturesque.
Yeah, I've been told that, driving in the city is not that great an idea. So is it?
I'm not personally driving, so it wasn't so bad.
Oh, so like a Uber or
yeah,
something?
Lyft and Uber.
Lyft and Uber? Well, it's a great way to get around, any city. I think with most of these conferences, if you're going to be doing sightseeing, you have to carve that time out of the conference and say, well, I'm not going to go to these sessions. I'm just going to go out on my own and
go do it.
Yeah, either do it on my own or drag someone along.
Yeah, I'll go. I'm hosting a brunch at 11 on H Street. Oh, so I'll start my sightseeing for the day, and then so I'll carve out some time, and then later this evening there's the DC Science Comedy that Brian Mallow is. He's the headliner, so I'll be going to that tonight. That's at 7.
Where is that? I might want to check that out.
I have a flyer. I can text you.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been telling everyone. I'm like, go. And they did it on Friday, and I heard it was really, really good. And then they'll do it again tonight.
Okay, so I'll check that out. So
yeah.
just give me the details. And you're also the host of the Dope Science Show.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us about that?
Okay. So I host the Dope Science Show, and basically the Dope Science Show, I talk to regular people, people I find interesting, and we talk about their life passions, and I interview scientists. So you never know what type of episode it's going to be, who's going to be on. Will it be a scientist? Will it be a filmmaker? I'm pretty random about that. Most recently, I've been trying to focus on interviewing more scientists, but I feel like it's an experiment in itself, so I'm still developing the format. It's a long-form type of podcast, so it's just casual conversation, and it's been a really fun way for me to get to know people and that I find interesting and to find out more about their backgrounds, and especially the scientists that, say for instance, I enjoyed their article. It's really great to be able to hear the story behind the science,
So do you look for anyone with a particular background, or just like, hey, you do science, I want to talk to you?
I kind of just started. I'm kind of an outsider in the science world. I don't have a really in-depth science background. I did study science for a short amount of time, nuclear science, and that's how I got into science. My favorite science is neuroscience, but I have pretty much taken anyone who has an interest in science because I really want to create an environment where people talk about science like they do sports. So you don't have to be a certain way or have a certain caliber of degree. You just need to be interested and engaged in science. That's why I love to interview just regular people and citizen scientists, as well. Most of the scientists who have been on my show they've pitched themselves. Sometimes I reach out to them, but I'm part of a community online called SciComm. It's SCICOMM. If you use that hashtag, you'll find a whole world of science communicators.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are actual scientists who are working on their communication skills. So that's how I found a lot of people. Because neuroscience is my favorite science, I've had a couple of neuroscientists on the show, more than once.
So why do you like neuroscience so much?
I have a love for language. I go off and on where I study languages just to the point where I'm almost fluent, and then usually I get distracted and do something else, and then I forget everything. But something about it, and I really am fascinated about the brain, and I'm fascinated about how the brain interacts with the rest of the body. I have multiple sclerosis, and so that gives me an even more personal interest in neuroscience. And MS, for people who don't know, it's when your immune system attacks your spinal cord and causes like lesions and things like that, and that has a direct influence on your brain and your neurons. But I just find it very fascinating. Very fascinating. I really can't really say specifically why.
Well, you like what you like, and I think science in general is fascinating, and whether you have like this area you're just like, wow, this, but everything is fascinating especially when you talk to people, right? Mm-hmm. They're like, well, what do you do? And it's like, dude, that's like so cool.
Yeah.
But I think it's great like what you do, because a lot of especially some of the scientists I've talked to, especially some of them were grad students, there's this big perception with the public that scientists are like these old white dudes, right?
Right.
And no one thinks that, oh yeah, well, they come in all sorts of sizes and packages, right? And I think it's important for people to see that, or at least to hear it.
Right.
So at least they can like, hey, this dude's just like me.
Exactly. That's what I really hope for, that this dude's just like me. And also, I'm authentically myself, and I'm very open about what I know and what I don't know. So I'm never afraid to sound dumb. There's never a question that's too simple, because I just want people to feel like they don't have to be intimidated to ask questions, and engage and learn, a little deeper and more in depth about any scientific topic,
Yeah, and, most people are approachable,
Mm-hmm.
They're as approachable as you'd expect anyone in any average job to be. And, I think that's the other thing that, I think people have to understand is that doing science is a job.
It is.
It's a career.
And one of my favorite things I've experienced or taken away from the podcast is a lot of times people think they're not smart enough. Like, I'm not good at math. And so I've spent a lot of time, especially in the first season 1, and even a little bit in season 2, just going through all the naysayers, the negative thoughts that people have about why they can't do science. And quite a few scientists have been on the show, whether they're PhD level, no matter what their field. I've asked them, what was your challenge and how did you overcome it? And what I've learned, and even from my own experience during neuroscience, is you don't have to know everything. You don't have to be an expert at everything. So say, for instance, you're not good at math, right?
Mm-hmm.
Learn you have to do the math to get you to where you want to be in your field. But once you get there, you're a specialist. And then you really only use the knowledge you need for your particular field. So you don't have to be like a calculus like extraordinaire or something like that. And I feel like a lot of people count themselves out, and they already because they think because you have to go through these math classes, and that's something you have to be a master of. But if that's not really important to your field of study, you don't have to be a master. And that applies to everything. And so science is a lot more approachable, and you can definitely, I think anyone can do it. I always say we're all dope scientists. It's just pick what you like. And even in your regular life, just asking questions. And I would like to interview more citizen scientists, people who are actively doing scientific observations and research as well. I haven't done that, but I do plan to do that as well.
That sounds like a great idea. So are you going to do this in the next season of the show, or?
Yeah, I think so. My seasons I don't have any hard seasons. When I get really tired, I'm like, you know what? I need a break, and I need to book and plan the next season. That's when I end the season. I'm like, all right, we're done. The season is done.
Oh.
And then I'm like, all right, we're gonna take a couple of months and plan the next season and what we'll focus on. And that's pretty much how I've done it. But yeah.
So it's not like, okay, season 1 we're going to have like 10 episodes. It's just whatever.
Maybe I'll get more structured, Definitely, I would probably get more structured. My first season, I was trying to get out an episode every week. So I put so many episodes the first season. And then this season, I think I've done like 6 or 8 episodes. And I have a couple more that I need to edit. So we'll end up having 10.
Okay.
Probably.
Yeah, I know, because right now that's what I do. It's like I just put out an episode a week, and it's like so much work.
It is so much work. And I do all the marketing and promotion myself as well. And it takes a week to just, build all that out and promote it. So that's why I tend to have 2 episodes a month. I usually end up doing an episode, promote it for a week, and then I do the next episode, typically.
Oh, maybe I should do that.
Well, just as long as you're consistent, I need what I plan to do. I'm always like, how can I do this better? Having a newsletter, I think, is helpful, so then people know, oh, yes, new episode. So that's what I plan to do. So it can be more consistent. People know, okay, well, it's not this week, but it'll be next week on this day. Now it's like a surprise. Boom, episode's out. And then I'm all over social media like, hey, I've got an episode, you guys. Hey. But
yeah, I know. That's one of the things that, I was told is like, whatever you do, just be consistent. Even if you're just going to be doing like once a month.
Yeah.
Bring it out once a month.
So people can kind of like know what to expect.
Yeah. So do you have any future plans for the show other than the citizen science part?
Yes, I'm really, really, really interested in science and comedy. Like when I started the show, I'll tell you, my big plan for the Dope Science show is to have it be kind of like a Johnny Carson show, but the topic is science. So that's why I interviewed all different types of people.
Oh.
Because if you've seen like nighttime television, those type of shows, they have different types of people, not just actors,
Yeah.
And so I want to have that same dynamic. But my stars, the people I'm really excited about, will be my scientists. And so I love how he opens with like a comic who does like a set. So I would like to do something like that. And I've been reaching out to comics, and I actually just recorded an episode with a comic, and I have to edit it. And that'll be completely interesting. I'm not sure how that's going to work. How do you edit to make it funny? And it was funny, but it was like we were pretty much riffing and I thought it was going to be 10 minutes, and it being like an hour. So we'll see.
Yeah,
but I definitely want to incorporate more comedy in the future.
It seems to be so many comedians doing science. Because at the session there was Brian Mallow.
Right.
And then I forgot his name, is Chris
Duffy.
Chris Duffy.
I love his show. You're the expert.
So I don't know if you can answer this question. It's like, why do so many comedians get into SciComm?
Yeah, I don't think it's so many. I really think maybe less than 100, probably much less than that, people doing it. But I'm underestimating it. I'm completely out of that world. So maybe there's 100, but there's not a lot. From my experience, I think, first of all, if you're a science nerd, you're just going to be happy to talk about science for any reason, right? Whether you're a comic or not. And I think people tend to take in information easier with less effort when they start with laughter. It just opens you up. So that's why I want to include it as well. And I'm just a huge stand-up comedian fan.
Yeah.
So, and I write, so I'm going to I'm going to write my own science set as well.
Yeah. Have you done stand-up before?
I haven't. I have written a few sets, and there's a dark bar in, there's this dive in LA where comics go and sadly, I don't want to say sadly, they go and try out their comedy, and it's full of other comics, and they're just it's a safe place to do it without any, pressure, because the audience is all just other comics. So I'm going to try it out there. It's something I've been very afraid to do. I had a fear of public speaking for a long time. The podcast has helped a lot. Doing videos online has helped. So this will probably be my last frontier of getting over my fear.
It could be
expert. Yeah. So, but yeah, it'll come out eventually. Next season, you'll definitely see more of it.
All right. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
So I guess we can start wrapping up because I don't want to keep you from
Okay,
these
no
really
worries.
cool. So, do you want to tell the listeners about your show, how to contact you, or say anything that I didn't give you a chance to say?
Yeah, I think we talked about everything. You guys can find me at thedopescienceshow.com. On Twitter, I'm at Dope Science Show. On Instagram, The Dope Science Show. And my personal, I'm very active. I mix the two, is Science Steph with Steph. And that's where I'll try out random things. Like if I'm going to try to do weird comedy, I tend to do it in my stories because they disappear. I'm like, yes. And yeah, you guys can hit me up if you're a scientist and you want to be on the show, or you're just a regular person who wants to talk about science for an hour and talk. I would love to do that. I read science journals all the time. So I would love to say, hey, I read this and let's talk about that, because I do that a lot.
All right. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That was fun.
Okay. That was Stephany Lowe. If you'd like to hear her geek out about science, check out her podcast, The Dope Science Show. Links have been provided in the show notes. If you're a science blogger, YouTuber, podcaster, or communicator, and you'd like to appear on this show to talk about science and what you do, email me at sciencebloggersfb@gmail.com. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you'll join us again next week when I talk to a new science communicator.